Almost all of our planet is a secret. More than 90% of the ocean lives in perpetual darkness with pressures capable of crushing steel. What really happens at 11,000 meters deep in the Hadal Zone? There, life adopts monstrous forms, and the Earth tears, releasing events so extreme that science prefers to remain silent. Today, we descend into the Mariana Trench. If you dare to look at the true underworld, subscribe, activate the bell, give it a like, and share this journey. We live on the surface of a world that, ironically, is alien to us. The planet we call Earth is covered in more than 70% by water. And yet, our exploration of outer space often surpasses our knowledge of the blue abyss that surrounds us. We know more about the surface of Mars and the craters of the Moon than about the seabed of our own planet. This vast liquid expanse, with an average depth of 3.7 kilometers, hides a shocking demographic secret. 94% of all life on Earth exists in the water. Humans and the rest of terrestrial life are, in reality, a minuscule minority. This conclusion forces us to change our perspective and recognize that the Earth is fundamentally an oceanic planet, and that most of this planet exists in total and eternal darkness. But the true frontier of terror resides not only in the darkness, but in the pressure and the distance. As we immerse ourselves beyond the limits of sunlight, we enter a realm where physical conditions are so hostile that they defy human comprehension. We head to the deepest places, to the most hidden abysses, where life has been forced to adopt bizarre forms, and where geological events reach a catastrophic magnitude. Exploring these abysses at depths reaching 10,034 meters below sea level is descending to a zone known as the Hadal, a term that evokes the underworld, a realm where not only does light disappear, but also the rules of biology and geophysics that we take for granted. What horrors lurk in these extreme depths, and what events so violent take place in the deepest trench on the planet, that science prefers to approach with extreme caution. Our journey into the deep begins where life as we know it ends. Sunlight, the source of all surface life, only manages to penetrate up to about 100 meters. Beyond that, the descent into dread begins. The twilight zone, which extends from 200 to 10,000 meters, is the limit of abundant aquatic life. It is here in the gloom where 90% of all aquatic life exists, fed by phytoplankton that still captures the scarce light. But even in this zone, life forms cluster together, seeking refuge from surface predators in an environment that is already hostile. The record for human immersion with diving equipment stops at 332 meters, an insurmountable barrier without bathyscaphe technology, as the pressure forces the air to escape from the lungs, threatening to crush the body. Upon crossing the 10,000 meters mark, we enter the midnight zone, an abyss where total and perpetual darkness reign. It is a reality where the concept of sunlight is as alien as zero gravity is to an earthling. In this zone, food is extremely scarce and life is forced to become an exercise in energy conservation. Most animals do not actively hunt. Instead, they become passive collectors of what scientists call marine snow, microparticles of dead fish remains, plants, feces, and dust that fall slowly from the upper layers. It is an ecosystem sustained by decomposition. The pressure in this zone becomes truly terrifying. Imagining the pressure at 6,000 meters, which is the average depth of 90% of the ocean, is to conceive a force capable of demolishing steel structure. It is in this hostile environment where transcontinental internet cables extend, resting on what was considered the conditional bottom of the ocean. However, there are places where the Earth breaks and the bottom sinks much further beyond this threshold. Life in the Hadal Zone, the deepest, becomes stranger and more bizarre, adopting forms that seem straight out of a nightmare. The inhabitants of these realms have learned to generate their own light through bioluminescent chemical reactions, using it as a deadly lure to attract prey or as a distraction to deter predators in an environment where light is the only luxury. At 10,000s of meters deep, we find creatures like the anglerfish, which uses a luminescent fin as if it were a flashlight to attract other unsuspecting fish toward its mouth. The bright lure is, in fact, a colony of symbiotic bacteria that have learned to live with the predator. We also find siphonophores, relatives of jellyfish that live in colonies clustered around a tube that acts as a common digestive system, floating like ghostly ribbons of death. Further down, at depths exceeding 2,200 meters, we find giant octopuses and even larger sperm whales, which descend to wage mortal battles with giant squid. The most disturbing adaptation, however, is found near the Mariana Trench, Pacific Ocean, at more than 10,000 meters deep. There, Alicella gigantea amphipods have been found, crustaceans measuring up to 34 centimeters long. While most crustaceans in surface waters are tiny, these giants are the result of the paradox of gigantism, where extreme conditions and the lack of predators allow creatures to grow to a monstrous size. These are life forms that have evolved not to be beautiful, but to survive an existence that for us would be a constant terror. The snailfish, Leparidec, a creature with a soft and almost ghostly appearance, holds the record for having been sighted at the greatest depth. There is no other fish there, which underscores the specialization of survival. These creatures have no natural enemies at that depth. Their only enemy is the limit of physics. Their very existence forced scientists to completely revise their theories on the survival of species at extreme pressures. We are descending to the midnight zone, a place where the pressure is so immense that organisms have had to mutate to survive. Next, we are going to explore the giant creatures that live in the Hadal Trench and the chilling truth of the black smoker. If this immersion into the unknown fascinates you, we ask you to subscribe and leave your like right now. Only with your help can we continue illuminating the secrets of the planet's darkest depth. Don't stop now, the real horror is about to begin. The Hadal Zone is terrifying not only because of its creatures, but because of its geology. The Mariana Trench, the deepest point on Earth, is located at the edge of two lithospheric plates. It was formed due to subduction, the process in which one plate, the Pacific, violently sinks beneath another, the Philippine. It is an open wound in the Earth's crust, 2,500 kilometers long, more than 5 times the length of the Grand Canyon, and a place where tectonic fury is perpetual. The Challenger Deep, the lowest point, is located between 10,911 and 11,1034 meters. It is a place of extreme thermal and chemical violence. For example, at its peak, at 414 meters, is the Daikoku volcano, where a unique phenomenon on the planet exists, a lake of slightly molten sulfur under the water, which boils at 187 centigrade. At 1,600 meters, we find the black smokers, hydrothermal vents that discharge mineralized water under a pressure of hundreds of atmospheres and a temperature of up to 450 centigrade. While it is believed that these black smokers became the cradle of life in the ocean 10 million years ago, their mere existence demonstrates an environment of constant ebullition and extreme pressure, where the water is at 4 times the surface boiling point. Geological terror also looms over other depressions, such as the Puerto Rico Trench, the deepest point in the Atlantic Ocean, 8,376 meters. This trench is located on a geologically very turbulent boundary where constant seismic activity has had catastrophic consequences. The memory of the 1918 earthquake and the tsunami wave that struck the island's western coast, killing more than 100 people, is a constant warning. Some geoscientists fear the possibility of a powerful volcanic eruption or an even greater earthquake in the near future. Furthermore, beneath this trench, NASA has detected a superdense geological formation, so massive that it has a greater gravitational impact on the ocean surface, causing it to sink slightly and affecting the precision of navigation devices. It is a silent terror where the laws of physics are distorted by the Earth's hidden. The exploration of these zones has been a testament to human ambition in the face of adversity. The pioneers, the Americans Jacques Piccard and Don Walsh, were the first to visit the Challenger Deep in 1960. Aboard the bathyscaphe Trieste, they took 5 hours to descend to 10,918 meters. They spent only 20 minutes on the bottom, seeing little more than clouds of mud, but the light from their reflector revealed a flatfish, a scientific sensation that confirmed that life could thrive in hell. However, the immense technological effort and high risk contrast with the minuscule discovery, revealing the ocean's resistance to being known. Modern expeditions with special modules, 4K cameras, and scanners have documented foraminifera, sea cucumbers, and other fascinating creatures, but not without a constant reminder of human fragility. The true horror that lurks for scientists is not a giant monster, but the understanding that we are operating at the limit of knowledge and survival. The ocean abysses are volatile, dynamic, and capable of releasing forces that surpass us. The final message of the oceans, from the Mariana Trench to the Puerto Rico Trench, is terrifyingly clear. The seabed is not a static, passive, and distant place. It is a dynamic system, a cemetery of shipwrecks and a geological battleground, a place where high pressure, darkness, and extreme heat create an infernal environment. The true horror is the realization that most of our planet is dominated by an abyss that we barely understand, and whose most catastrophic events, from the explosion of black smokers to the generation of massive massive tsunamis, have the capacity to ascend and affect the fragile minority of life that clings to the surface. The 10,034 meters is not just a depth figure, it is a threshold to the truly unknown, and its secrets are as terrifying as they are fascinating. From ghostly siphonophores to the geological terror of the subduction plate, the ocean abyss teaches us that we are still a vulnerable minority on our own planet. The true horror is not the monster, but the immensity we do not know. What other secrets do you think the Challenger Deep holds? Leave your theory in the comments. If this immersion has left you thinking, support us with a like, share the video, and subscribe for more explorations to the limits of the Earth.